Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So we've seen kind of some cards from the Grand Tournament that Blizzard has so graciously given us, and while we have rejoiced in the presence of what may be a new game of Hearthstone, well, some people are left expecting certain things, and it's really difficult to understand what direction they're going to go into at this point, but I thought it would be really interesting, and I was really inspired by some user-created cards to give you guys the really extreme situations. So right now, the situation is that they've introduced a lot of cards, but they're all slow, and none of the cards actually change the meta to slow it down for the cards that are slow actually become playable. So it's a pretty interesting situation. So on one hand, we really kind of want cards that will slow down the game, not artificially, but, very deliberately. And on the other hand, some people kind of like that game. So today, I have 5 cards that I think would make the game really awesome, and 5 cards that I think would totally mess it up. So here we are. The first one, this is the first one that inspired me. It is the Annoy Belcher. It's a 3-mana 1/2 taunt divine shield, and it summons a 1/1 annoying slime with taunt when it dies. Annoyatron wasn't too big of a deal in GVG, largely because, well, GVG kind of pushed the aggressive side far more than the defensive one, but it's kind of cool. The little guy kind of buys a few turns, and combined with the Belcher, we have a pretty formidable little creature, which is really what you need. Big creatures that help you in the game don't actually help you in the game defensively. You need cards much sooner than, that 5th, 6th, or 7th mana crystal. Second up, have the big one. The idea is that, there's some cool cards, like Lock and Load is a really cool card, and I kind of like just, crazy stuff, absolutely crazy decks. I want extra incentive to use the cards in the Grand Tournament, and, while this card is probably not very good, it's just really fun. If you make it to turn 9, you'll have maybe 10 Lock and Loads in your hand, and then you play one Lock and Load, then you play another, you get a card off the one that you played, and, after you pretty much dump your hand of Lock and Loads, you're going to just have 10 random Hunter cards, right? Sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, it's probably really, really overpowered, but it's the idea. I really want to try some of these awesome cards, and making them artificially more powerful through other cards, I think is actually maybe an alright solution. Then we have the Defender. This is something they haven't really done yet. With Maiden of the Lake, they've made the hero power cheaper, but it's on a card that's kind of useless just as a body. So I kind of wanted something a bit above that, and I made the Wild Defender. Just throw on that beast tag, maybe that makes a difference for maybe that druid deck running Druid of the Fang. But the idea is that, we have all these cool Inspire mechanics, but they're all really slow or really require some kind of combos. So this guy kind of speeds that up a little bit. If you have, the guy that pops up some Kodos, you can play that guy and then drop a Wild Defender to protect him and to summon a Kodo. So you have kind of like slow combo decks rather than just slow decks. And this is maybe not too far from a reality. This might actually be something that Blizzard might do. They might come up with just trigger cards on your hero power so you can run the Inspire mechanic in a combo deck. And yeah, of course, trigger your hero power, whether you like it or not, it's going off. You have to target something the turn you play the card. So kind of something cool, maybe a little bit skill-based, because the sequencing becomes, much more important in some situations. So yeah, love to see a card like this. Also, another card I like is the Death Mage. Now, GVG introduced something that I believe is called the Scarlet Purifier, which was Blizzard's attempt to rectify some of the problem cards they introduced in Naxxramas. Namely, cards like Haunted Creeper and the Egg were really, really dominant in the zoo scene, and, that really just makes those decks, so powerful, and these cards are just run today. People consider Naxxramas as a good deal still, even though people, agree that GVG was a sizable power creep in Hearthstone. So there really is no great counter to these cards. The main counter to like a Haunted Creeper is, well, a Cabal. A 6-drop from a Priest. seriously, right? So that's not really good enough. I feel the Death Mage is really the way to go. It's playable kind of as a 3-mana 2/4, so it's still kind of a tech card where it's not horribly useless, but you know, it does punish certain decks immensely. If you compare this to Kazan Mystic, stealing a secret, especially one that a player played themselves, is basically game winning. So in this case, it's not even game winning. I don't think it's too extreme to introduce a card like this, and it will completely punish a lot of the other Death Rattle decks, which is really what we need. We need actual counters for decks that are strong. We need tech choices for these type of decks, and I think it makes the ranked play a lot more interesting, because if Death Rattle decks are the big thing, then people tech these cards. And in the tournament scene, it makes it even more interesting, because, you know, you could have an established deck and play the tech cards rather than counter them with a whole new deck. So fine-tuning becomes more of a type of game, and people, I think, largely enjoy that already. And then we have my funnest creation, the Spirit Healer, a 6-mana 2/9, and the battle cry kind of works like the Frost Giant, and it restores 2 health to each hero for each hero power used this game. So, you know, if you're playing against face decks, it's kind of like, you know, I want actual counters, like 1 or 2 card counters, like tech choices against the super annoying garbage that you see on ladder so frequently. And I think it's these cards that you need to complement, you know, slow decks, to complement control decks, to complement decks that you just need a high amount of mana crystals to actually start using the cards that you put in there. So this card makes it so you won't feel bad for using your hero power. You know, if you're, for instance, like a mage and you want to hero power down some 1 health creatures so you can like maybe Blizzard or Flame Strike on turn 6 or 7, well, usually if you do that, it doesn't work out so well, because after you do that, you're at like 5 health and you're basically dead anyway. So the Spirit Healer kind of makes it so you have an additional option to come back in the game, more so than what you might expect from an antique heal bot. So that's the goodness. I think these are the kind of cards that I'd really love to see in the game. But on the flip side, I wanted to show you guys some of the other cards, and we'll kick off with one that I found, another one that I think it was on someone's Twitter. I forget. I'll update you guys. But here it is, Matter Scientist. You guys get the idea, right? So we had the Bomber, now we have the Matter Bomber, and it's a scale up of a card. Why not have a Mad Scientist scaled up? It seems totally fair. 4 mana 4/4, and the Death Rattle puts 2 secrets from your deck into the battlefield. So, you know, Mad Scientist is a pretty balanced card. Just scaling up a little bit would, yeah, it'd make it way worse, because it's just a much slower card, right? Yeah, maybe not. And then we have the Arcane Toolbox. So, you know, one thing that really sucks in this game is facing, you know, mages that have way too many spells, and you often get your soul absolutely crushed. And, you know, it seems pretty fair to fill your hand with spare parts, because spare parts are, you know, not really a big deal. You know, it's kind of hard to really combo them with the existing mage cards out there, so I'm sure nobody would think to use this with Flamewaker, Sorcerer Apprentice, or even Archmage Antonidas. Never gonna happen. Then we have the successor to Quickshot. Quickshot was obviously a card that hunters needed. There were basically no hunters playing the game until Blackrock Mountain introduced Quickshot, and now they're barely viable. So to kind of forward that one step ahead, we want to use the same thought process used in creating a better Dark Bomb. Now we want to create a better Fireball, because hunters just need it. It's just, you know, a class that always seemed to struggle on ladder and in tournament play, so giving them more direct damage and a means to refill their hand with even more direct damage only seems like a fair solution. Then we have the Merlok Buccaneer. It's a Merlok and a pirate, and why not give Merloks and pirates charge to, you know, better incentivize decks that run a lot of really annoying creatures that kill you before you can do anything? have the option to charge so they can kill you even faster. And you know, it's kind of a fair mechanic, because if your opponent is also playing Murlocs or Pirates, he gets the benefit as well. So it doesn't seem like it's really worth much in terms of the cost of the ability, so I think the card deserves solid stats, 3 mana for 2. In all seriousness, you know, cards like the Warsong Commander kind of create so many problems. It's so tricky to actually balance around cards that give mass charge. So yeah, let's just hope we won't see too many of these cards in the set. And lastly, speaking of cards that are super annoying, can't be played around, and absolutely ruins control decks, we have the new Druid card, Force of Wisps. It's basically an equivalent to Force of Nature, because when you look at the cards side by side, it's basically the same. It's actually worse, you know, because with Force of Nature, if you have only if you have 3 spots on the board, you get 3 2/2s, but with Force of Wisps, you only have 3 spots on the board, because the maximum board is 7 cards, 7 creatures. You only get 3 1/1s. So, you know, it's the same damage. You know, it's just like 6 damage charged through creatures. I mean, you're basically supposed to use this card like a fireball anyway. So, you know, I thought it might just be more interesting, because players kind of like Wisps, as it so happens that Wisps in World of Warcraft lore happen to destroy Archimonde. So it's just kind of cool to be able to use them in an aggressive way and maybe have like some cool finishers. And I'm sure there's absolutely no way cards like these could ever be abused in Hearthstone. Nope. Never. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoy my cards. Hope you guys kind of understand what I'm getting at here. You know, expansions are a really good time for Blizzard to change the scene, but they have to do it deliberately. They have to do it in a way where they can introduce cards that actually counters the stuff that's going on. You can't just arbitrarily release cards for control decks, for slow decks, when the metagame is already developed, and is already developed in a way to counter specifically that. So we need no more quick shots, and we need more cards that help you get to the late game, so you can actually do what you want with whatever card you want, at least in some mildly successful way. Hope you guys enjoyed my cards. I'll see you guys tomorrow.